So today we're going to talk about some supplements that don't work. Now, obviously, this is a bit of hyperbole. There are certainly supplements that do work for certain people, but I think as a general pill for every ill, these supplements are things that I always am a little bit suspicious of, particularly when they come with claims like immune boosting. So when it comes to immune boosting, how many of these supplements actually work? It's not many. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of the commonest supplements that I see being touted in sort of tandem with immune boosting properties. And I'm going to explain why it might not be the magical pill that's advertised in the stores like health food stores and supplement stores. So the first one is zinc. So zinc is definitely important for your immune function. And some studies suggest that zinc supplements or syrups may shorten the length of common viral illnesses causing the common cold, so respiratory syncytial virus, for example. However, zinc doesn't appear to prevent colds from occurring in the first place. And the evidence looking at this shortening of the duration of symptoms is pretty weak as well. So the idea, if we go back to the beginning, the idea behind zinc stopping common colds is based on lab experiments that show that zinc blocked rhinovirus. So that's a very common type of virus that causes the common cold. It blocks the rhinovirus from getting into cells. Great. That's amazing, right? You got some zinc, stops going into cells. Great. Let's put it into a supplement. Let's give it to everyone. But human research, just because you see it in the lab doesn't always translate into this actually being an observed effect in humans. The human research shows really mixed results for zinc supplementation in colds. So this is where I'm like, is it because people were zinc deficient in the first place, and when they have zinc, it appears to reduce the duration of their common cold symptoms or protect them from colds? Who knows? It's really, really up in the air. There was a recent meta-analysis of 34 randomized controlled trials, and zinc supplementation did not lower the risk of getting a cold. In participants who already had a cold, zinc lozenges and nasal sprays reduced the duration of illness by approximately 2.4 days, but there was an increased risk of adverse events such as stomach upset as well. So there is this slight suggestion it could reduce the duration, so it might be worth it for some people who are willing to undergo the risk of having some side effects like stomach upset. But I would say 3 issues I have with this. First is limited impact. So while zinc might shorten the duration of a cold, its effects are probably going to be modest at best. And if you're having a generally healthy diet with tons of zinc-based foods in that we'll talk about in a second, having a zinc a tablet or lozenge or spray, is that going to give you a boost? Who knows? Might want to spend your money on other things that we have better evidence for that I'll get to a little bit later in this video. There are some side effects of overuse as well. That's the second thing that I'm a little bit hesitant, why I'm hesitant to recommend zinc as a supplement. In the short term, high doses of zinc, which is over 40 milligrams per day, can cause stomach pain, which is why we see these side effects in these meta-analyses. It's also been associated with copper deficiency and iron deficiency, as well as the suppression of the immune system. So I've talked about this in previous episodes, where when you consume a mineral, they have these pairs. So if you can overconsume one, it disadvantages the other. It basically reduces the amount of the other in your body. So if you're supplementing in high amounts in a singular form, in a singular mineral, it can have a detrimental effect on the balance of all the other micronutrients in your body as well. Also, the application of intranasal zinc has been reported to cause a loss of smell in some people as well. So there are these side effects that I can't guarantee that people aren't going to experience with these things. And because the benefits aren't really clear cut to me, I'm always a bit hesitant to recommend zinc. The third thing is basically what I've alluded to, this over focus on one nutrient. All nutrients are super important for our immune function. Our immune system doesn't function on one nutrient alone in isolation. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you supplement with one nutrient, if you're deficient, yes, it might have an effect. But most people who are having a healthier diet, who are spending money on a healthier diet, probably do not need to supplement these individual micronutrients. The bottom line for me is that zinc supplements have shaky evidence at best that they work, particularly as a long-term preventative measure. They may benefit some people in shortening the duration of an illness once it is established, but even that is associated with side effects, and it may not be worth your money as well. I would suggest getting your zinc that isn't in isolation, that is in its form that nature has intended, from whole foods as much as possible. Where do you find zinc? You get it in nuts, you get it in seeds, you get it in whole grains. Taking zinc when you feel like a cold coming on might help a little bit, but I wouldn't rely on it for everyday immune support. So don't buy into these sort of advertising strategies of like, take your zinc because cold flu season is coming. Take your zinc in the form of nuts and seeds and making sure that you're getting a wholesome, diverse, plant-focused diet with adequate amounts of protein in. Make sure you get your protein in. I've put the calculator for protein in the captions down below so you can figure out how much protein you require, because protein is required not just for your muscle building, but also your immune system, ensuring that you're getting those immunoglobulins, your enzymes, your hormones. It's very, very important. And that is probably a better strategy of ensuring that your body is robust enough when it comes to cold and flu season as well. The top sources for zinc. I mentioned nuts and seeds and whole grains. Fish. So fish like oysters, crab, shrimp, sardine, which is my personal favorite, sardines. You get it fresh from Portugal. It's very cheap. It's pretty accessible, but you can also get canned and jarred varieties. Salmon. These are all great sources of zinc. You can get it from beef, chicken, and turkey as well. Beans, lentils. My favorite seed, pumpkin seed, and sunflower seeds. You can get it from that in really good amounts, handful a day, varying it up, getting those extra phytonutrients, getting good amounts of protein, getting really good amounts of fiber. These are great. Making sure you're getting all these different foods in your diet, that is the way to go. Making sure you're getting your nuts and seeds. I have this thing, I don't know if you've heard of it before, it's called BBGs. Making sure you're getting beans, berries, greens, seeds, and nuts every single day, a handful of each. Think about that every single day. Remember, Doctor's Kitchen tells you to do BBGs every single day. It will protect your heart, protect your head, protect your brain, and it could even support your immune system as well. The second supplement, vitamin C. It's a classic. Vitamin C 100% plays a role in your immune system. It is critical for immune function. But the idea that mega doses will prevent colds or speed up recovery is largely hyperbole. It's largely overblown. The effect is not huge, and I think it only really helps if you've been taking it consistently before getting sick, and if you're mildly deficient in vitamin C or you don't have a very good diet in the first place. So according to a meta-analysis that was published in 2023, regular supplementation of at least 1 gram per day shortened the duration of a cold, particularly taken when you're taking it before getting sick. However, there was another review that found taking vitamin C regularly did not reduce the likelihood of getting a cold and only slightly improved cold symptoms. So I would say the evidence is mixed. And when you look at the quality of the studies that were involved in these meta-analyses, they aren't great. These aren't big numbers. And you don't know what the individuals who were involved in the studies, you don't know what their pre-morbid state was, like what the state of their diet was, how much vitamin C they were consuming in the form of whole foods, what the state of their microbiota was. These are all things that will impact the likelihood of you getting a cold and the duration of your symptoms as well. So I would say if you're taking vitamin C, it only seems to work if you've been taking it regularly at a dose higher than 1 gram per day. And the effect is more noticeable in people with low vitamin C levels and those under high amounts of stress as well. That is the only situation which I would say, yeah, take your vitamin C. But I would say get your vitamin C again from whole food. You can get it from dark leafy greens. You can get it from berries, kiwis, citrus fruit, obviously, brassica vegetables. A lot of people discount the fact that your greens will have tons of vitamin C as well. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower. These are all phenomenal sources of not only vitamin C, but all the other micronutrients. We're not thinking about isolated nutrients here. We're thinking about the collection of these phytonutrients that are housed in perfect symmetry in the food matrix, that has fiber as well that supports your gut, and that fiber that supports your gut definitely supports your immune system. So I would say that there isn't enough evidence to suggest taking that large doses of vitamin C have any additional immune benefits. Now, there are some isolated cases of taking 4 to 8 grams of vitamin C daily for people who are undergoing real sort of inflammatory conditions or severe influenza. In those isolated cases, there is scanty evidence that it might help. In an ITU setting, there is some evidence that it might also speed up recovery or at least reduce inflammation, but that is not for the general population. And you will not be getting your IV vitamin C either. So I would say spend your money where we know it definitely has an impact on your immune system. Probiotic foods, vitamin C rich foods, BBGs every single day. Think about those sort of foods and making sure that you're getting that in consistently rather than relying on an isolated micronutrient. And if you're thinking about micronutrients, you might think, oh, okay, well, as long as I'm getting a collection of different micronutrients in the form of a multivitamin, then I'm covering all my bases, right? It's my foundational supplement for foundational nutrition, for foundational wellness, foundational. Multivitamins, I really do not think are worth the money. This sort of market of being a one-size-fits-all solution doesn't come close to replicating the benefits of whole foods. And there are 2 key issues that I have with multivitamins. Just a quick one. If you want to learn the 5 ingredients that I think are fantastic for inflammation that you should be getting into your diet every week, then download this PDF right now. It's in the link down there, and I'll send you my 5 ingredients for inflammation. The first thing is that they lack the whole food effect. So whilst these multivitamins are isolated forms of vitamins and minerals, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, magnesium, selenium, etc., look super impressive on the label. When you eat whole foods, you're not just getting those individual vitamins. You're getting complex networks of nutrients, fiber, and phytochemicals, of which there are thousands, not 26. There are thousands of these different phytonutrients, many of which we have not fully understood, isolated, and studied. So these phytonutrients have the unique properties of being antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. They work in ways that supplements cannot replicate. It is really naive to think as long as I have my multivitamin that has my essential vitamins, this is going to be supporting my immune system. There isn't any evidence to suggest that is the case. And this food matrix that we have in whole food is just so unique that it is, it is unfathomable to think that we can replicate that with multivitamins. So the synergy in whole foods makes them much more beneficial than the sum of those individual parts. Remember that when you're looking at the back of a multivitamin pack and thinking, oh, this looks really impressive. If you were to do the same thing for whole food, the list would go on for pages and pages. I'll give you an example. So when you eat kiwi or an orange, yes, it gives you vitamin C. Great, got some vitamin C on board, but you're also getting fiber, you're also getting flavonoids, you're getting all these different nutrients that work together to support your immune system in much more ways than just the vitamin C alone. So vitamin C tablet, by comparison, is just giving you one isolated vitamin, and you're missing out on this powerful combination of these different phytonutrients and the other nutrients that you find in the complex food itself. The second thing, and the reason why I have an issue with multivitamins, is that it gives you quite big doses of isolated nutrients. And many people, particularly if you eat well and you eat Doctor's Kitchen recipes, for example, many people already get enough vitamins and minerals from their diets. So taking additional supplements can sometimes lead to an overload of certain nutrients, which could be harmful. And there are some studies where people had precancerous lesions, whether that's precancerous lesions in the gut, or they were smokers or previous smokers, and they had a predisposition to cancer. If you're overloading on vitamin E or you're overloading on certain nutrients in these multivitamins or even isolated forms, you're potentially feeding cancer. And I don't mean to say that in a hyperbolic way. There is some evidence, and that was demonstrated pretty notably in the ACE study, the ACE study, where they gave tons of people, thousands of participants, these isolated vitamins, and they found a higher incidence of cancer in smokers. So precancerous lesions, or these cancers that live in and around the body, we all have them and our immune system detects them and we get rid of them every single day. There's a huge amount of turnover of cancerous cells that your body is constantly filtering and isolating and removing very, very efficiently. But if you're giving these isolated nutrients, certain cancer cells can take advantage of that and actually utilize that for their own internal machinery better than your cells can. So there is the suggestion that having these isolated nutrients might be pro-cancerous as well. So I would say if you're getting a varied diet rich in whole foods, you are much less likely to be having that issue with overdosing on one single micronutrient. You do not need a micronutrient if you're eating the kind of meals that we're putting out in the doctor's kitchen, and fill any of your gaps with real foods, not pills as well. Some other popular supplements that I don't have a particular issue with, but I just think they are a little bit overblown in terms of their benefits. So echinacea is a popular herbal remedy for colds. The evidence for echinacea is mixed at best. So some studies suggest that it might reduce the risk and duration of upper respiratory infections, but many of these studies were low quality and we don't know the best dose or duration just yet. I have less of an issue with echinacea as it comes from a whole source. So we're not isolating a certain element of echinacea, like a particular flavonoid, and then giving that in a big dose. It generally comes from the plant and it's isolated with all its different components. So it has an entourage of different chemicals. If you want to try that, or you've had some benefit from that, and you're already doing the other things that we always recommend you do with Doctor's Kitchen, I have less of an issue with that. I think, if you want to try echinacea, go for it. But they can be quite expensive. And I would suggest that ensuring that you're optimizing your whole foods first is definitely the best strategy. The second thing is probiotics. So probiotics, there's over 30,000 studies and counting on probiotics. If you look at PubMed, there is some preliminary evidence that they may help prevent respiratory infections, particularly in children and in athletes. But the studies all use different strains. Probiotics aren't probiotics that aren't probiotics. And there are so many different strains out there. It's really hard to study in a large population, or even looking at meta-analyses, because they all use different strains and different doses and different colony forming units and different brands. So it's really, really hard to look at the magnitude of effect where there's just so much heterogeneity. There's so much ambiguity in the studies that we're using. But the studies that use different strains, making it hard to draw conclusions from, they generally don't really give that much of a big signal to me that these are having a big effect, a huge magnitude of effect. So I wouldn't suggest taking probiotics in supplemental form as a means of improving your likelihood of preventing colds and other viruses, viral-borne illnesses. So I would say probiotics, the jury's out, but getting it from food, that's something I'll come back to in a second. Mushroom coffee and green powders, super trendy, not backed by solid evidence, and there is a lot of heterogeneity, there's a lot of ambiguity in whether you are consuming an actual mushroom product itself. When you're consuming, a lion's mane or a chaga, there isn't a system or regulation that governs whether you are actually getting what it says on the tin, in the UK at least, and probably in the US. And there are studies that show people taking off-the-shelf mushroom products, testing them for the existence of certain of the dose of mushrooms and ensuring that it's equivalent to what it says on the tin. And some of them don't even have any mushrooms in. They just have filler. And it's the wild, wild west out there. This is only recently brought to my attention by a mushroom farmer who independently lab tests the quality and the dosage of the mushrooms that they sell commercially. And I just thought that was wild. So it is, you've got to be really, really careful with that. And as a as a product of that, it's very hard for me to suggest to people to go and get a mushroom-based product if they might not even have those mushrooms in the product itself. Do I think they're good for your immune system? Potentially, yeah, actually. Lion's mane, chaga, reishi. There's definitely an impact, I think, on the immune system that is yet to be elucidated in large studies. But right now, it's quite hard to find a good supplement out there. So I just be careful about getting where you get your mushrooms from if you are interested in using mushroom teas and that kind of stuff. What are the supplements that I think actually could be worth it? Vitamin D. I know there's a bit of controversy around vitamin D. It's certainly government advice to have vitamin D during winter months. I'm still a big fan of vitamin D. As vitamin D3, I always take it with vitamin K2 because of the effect on calcium and how you regulate calcium. So you definitely need vitamin K2 that we tend not to get in our diet because it comes from a particular microbe. So you find it in natto and you find it in organ meats that we tend not to eat that much of anymore. But taking around 1,000 IU of vitamin D daily has been linked to a lower risk of acute respiratory infections, including colds and flu. There was a large 2017 trial, unfortunately, that didn't show much of a difference in colds between children taking a low or high dose of vitamin D. But I still think that on the weight of the lack of side effects from vitamin D, as long as you're not taking whopping big doses of tens of thousands of international units per week or per day, then I think it's a sensible strategy to reduce the likelihood of coughs and colds. And there is some evidence for quality omega-3 fatty acids as well in terms of boosting or supporting your natural immune system. What are the key habits that I suggest in terms of food and lifestyle to prevent colds as we're on this on this topic? Ultimately, it comes down to a food-first approach. Leafy greens has vitamin C, has vitamin K1, has fiber, minerals. These are all things that will support your gut. That is uniquely intertwined with your immune system. It's where 70 to 80% of your immune cells lie. Getting colorful fruits in, this is going to be your source of vitamin C, but it's also going to be your source of flavonoids. And studies actually suggest that higher flavonoid intake can reduce the risk of upper respiratory infections by around 30% and reduce sick days by 40%. So making sure that you're upping your flavonoid game with berries, which is why I have that strategy of BBGs every single day. Berries, beans, beans and berries, or either way, it's fine. As long as you're getting both beans, berries, greens, seeds and nuts, handful of each every single day. It will sort your immune system out. You will definitely benefit from having that as a strategy. Fermented foods, this is where I get my probiotics from. So whether you like kombucha or whether you like sauerkraut or kimchi, get your probiotics from food. You're going to be getting those flavonoids. You're going to be getting that extra fiber as well. So it has what's called a symbiotic effect. That symbiotic effect is where you get the probiotics, but you also get the prebiotics. So you're getting that combination, which is sort of like a packed lunch for your probiotics that you're sending to your large intestine. So they'll survive the long journey to the large intestine. That's the way I like to think about it anyway. And these symbiotics that you get from fermented foods have actually been shown in studies to improve inflammation and actually even improve your gut microbe population better than a high fiber diet alone. There are some small studies that demonstrate that, but I'm a big fan of fermented foods as well. And in line with that sort of prebiotic effect, you want to be getting your beans, peas, lentils. The legume family is uniquely special for your gut micro. So if you can tolerate those legumes, ensuring that you're soaking them properly, ensuring that you actually enjoy the taste of those as well. If you're on a low fiber diet, make sure you go slow when you're introducing more fibers because your gut microbes need a little bit of adjustment period. Then definitely get some of those into your diet as well, particularly around flu season, so your gut microbes are ready and waiting, and they can kick into action whenever needed as well. And one thing that I think I always like to talk about are spices. So getting spices into your diet has been shown to improve your immune system, to reduce inflammation. These are things that have antiviral properties in them themselves. They have active plant compounds. They have antioxidant properties. Things like gingerols and curcuminoids and cinnamaldehyde. I'm talking about ginger, turmeric, and cinnamon. These are warming spices, and it's a bit sort of it's an interesting one, because you tend to use these spices around the festive period. They are warming, literally warming spices. They keep you toasty. They have a cozying effect, but they also might be having a medicinal effect in that respect as well. So I think the growing research that shows daily doses of spices may help prevent against excessive inflammation, lowering pain, and potentially even improving the gut microbiota, because these spices are not just like great in terms of having a direct anti-inflammatory and direct antioxidant effect, but they also have a prebiotic effect as well. So they might also be having an impact on your immune system in that indirect way by supporting your gut microbes. I'm a big fan of these. So try and get spices in as much as possible. And you don't need to go always exotic. You can use, cloves and nutmegs and cinnamon, which is great, but you can also use things like marjoram and basil and oregano and dried spices and herbs as well. So don't fear using or not using these if you're not a fan of the exotic spices, or you can't tolerate the sort of warming effects of some of the more exotic ones as well. In terms of key lifestyle habits, making sure that you're resting properly, you're getting enough sleep, and getting a good dose of sleep is fantastic for your immune system. Making sure you're hydrating. So hydration is something that is really overlooked, but is really critical for your immune system, but also critical for your gut microbes. So making sure that you're having regular amounts of water every couple of hours or so, and you're just thinking to yourself, am I thirsty? Do I have enough water on board? You can use electrolytes if you like. I tend to get my electrolytes from food, but if you are active and you exercise, and particularly if you're doing a lot more cardiovascular workout, you may benefit from having a rehydration sachet whenever you work out on those days. Regular exercise. This is something that I think is undervalued, particularly in the winter months where it's less comfortable to go outside and actually move your body. Muscles play a key role in your immune function. So regular strength training, regular cardiovascular training to increase muscle mass could actually improve our ability to handle viral infections as well. And there is a suggestion that improving your indoor air quality could lessen the likelihood of viral illnesses. In winter, where air can be more polluted than outside of your house, this can also affect immune cell function. So open windows when cooking, avoid candles that release particulates and wet dust regularly as well, wipe dust away from surfaces regularly as well. So to recap, zinc, slightly short on colds, but don't rely on it daily. I would watch out for side effects if you are interested in using those. Vitamin C probably won't prevent colds, but may reduce the severity if taken regularly. Multivitamins, definitely not a replacement for whole foods, better definitely to get your nutrients from your diet. Other supplements like echinacea show mixed evidence but aren't strong enough to count on. What works? Nutrient-dense foods, making sure you're getting enough rest, staying hydrated, and moving your body regularly. Let me know if there's anything that I've missed in terms of immune boosters in the comments, and I'll see you here next time. If you want to learn to recognize the health foods that are actually quite unhealthy, I would check out this video right here.